Hello, John Wilson here, host of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it? 5 years, I think. But this is a new episode. Well, not exactly new. This is the first of several episodes that were recorded before Amazing Spider-Man Classics went the way of the dodo. Hopefully we're still in your subscription feeds. Hopefully we're still in your Facebook pages. And you'll see this and you'll download it and you'll say, wow, Amazing Spider-Man Classics is back. So here's the deal. The show is back. The show is coming back. There will be new episodes being produced. This is the first of 3 lost episodes from 5 years ago. Josh Bertoni and Donovan Grant helped me in taking a look at Amazing Spider-Man issue 49. After, of course, we read some of your emails. Next couple episodes after this, we'll have a guest on to talk about one of the most important stories, of Spider-Man's career in issues 50 through 52. Then I'm going to do an episode where I clean out the email bag, because I think feedback is important. And then, brand new episodes of Amazing Spider-Man Classics, with a bit of a change. More about that at the end of the show. For now, here we go.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello and welcome to Amazing Spider-Man Classics, in association with SpiderManCrawlspace.com. My name is John Wilson, and this is episode 37 of the show that takes you through every main title, every guest appearance, and every cameo we can find of The Amazing Spider-Man, from the beginning. Here with me tonight are Donovan Grant.
Yo, yo.
And Joshua Lappin-Bertoni.
Hey, hey, hey.
And tonight we're going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man 49, the second half of his tussle with the vomiting vulture, or not so vomiting, and the final issue before next episode's big special anniversary issue number 50. But can I say before we get going just how amazing the listeners are to this show? We are recording this episode in September, which is in August, just last month, proved to be our biggest month ever for the show, but that's after we had almost no production for the rest of the summer. So y'all stayed there, and whenever we came back, y'all were there ready to listen with a vengeance, and that's really awesome.
Thanks for not abandoning us at the street. We appreciate that.
I'll admit that I got just a little bit burned out on podcasting in the late spring, early summer, just in general. And combine that with the school stress I was under over the summer, this show just wasn't getting done. And neither was Golden Age Superman, the other show that I produce. And, y'all out there, you could have given up on us. You could have taken us off your feed, but you didn't. You stuck with us. And now we are back. We had our... what are they called? Reboot episodes. We have this episode. Our format's a bit different if you haven't guessed or noticed. Instead of doing 2 amazing issues almost every episode, we're going to switch to more of a month-by-month approach, most of the time anyway. And it makes things easier for us and for me to get an episode out to you roughly 3 times a month like I want to do. And hopefully when the stresses of this semester stack up in November and December, I'll still be able to get the show out with its, shorter episode lengths. We have emails we are going to read tonight. So our first email for tonight is from Owen Chules. It is entitled Blind Subscription. He says, "Hi guys. Apologies if this has been addressed, but I thought I'd write while it was still fresh in my mind. I'm catching up on the episodes, which I'm enjoying so much. I'm listening to this show virtually every waking hour, so I'm not up to date yet. While listening to episode 16, I heard John mention a letter referring to a free subscription for a blind guy whose brother reads him the comics. I do remember reading that letter, and I mentioned on the show that we hadn't seen what that was in reply to. Well, Owen says this is in reply to a letter printed in Level with Daredevil in Daredevil issue 4. Hopefully you'll now be able to sleep at night. Great work on the show, guys. You've inspired me to start my own pod on the topic of Old Hornhead himself. All the best, Owen." And he also includes... Yeah. So, Owen, if you have gotten that show going, do let us know what the what the download information is, because we'll be glad to give you some pimpage on the show. And if you have a promo, send it to the Amazing Spider-Man Classics at Gmail website. He does attach a scan of the letters page from that issue. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read that, just, to be...
That's a level with Daredevil. That's not that's not the catchiest of letter titles.
Yeah, no, it's really not. He says, the letter writer in Daredevil says, "Dear Stan and Joe, I just finished Daredevil. I think it is the most stupendous magazine there is. He really is the man without fear. His father and he are about the bravest men I've ever heard about. By the way, I'm sort of like Daredevil myself in a way. You see, I am blind, and my brother is writing this for me." Written by Brad Fawn in Metropolis, Illinois. And the reply is, "Loved hearing from you, Brad, and from now on your brother can read each and every issue to you monthly because we're sending you a complimentary gift subscription. Hope you'll continue to enjoy them, pal." And there was also, that I think the same person wrote back in. It got sent to the Spider-Man letters column, which is what we talked about several episodes back.
Oh, that's awfully nice of them.
I think it's really, really
Stan wrote it.
I don't think that Stan wrote that one. Okay. Why don't you, the next Owen Chul's email, The Power of Molten?
The Power of Molten. And, let's see. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this mail has nothing to do with the power of Molten, but I love saying it. Okay, I didn't read ahead. I totally thought that he was going to explain to me how the power of Molten made sense. I was like, so this is going to be like one of those, no offense, Gerard, but like one of those Gerard emails where like he clarifies something that we said, like, oh, so the power of Molten's a real thing. So way to subvert. Anyway, back to the email. I realize this is now something like my 5th email to you since your last podcast, but from my point of view, I've listened to 30 of your pods, so that's only one mail for every 6 episodes. Ooh, he does math. John, you and him should be friends.
You should have written in more, Owen.
Anyway, my point is that in episode 29, you discussed the fact that the Avengers try to contact Daredevil by transmitting a radio signal. Well, I would agree with you that it is stupid. I can't agree that that is how Daredevil's powers work, as there is some precedent. See this image from Daredevil, issue 10, which is page 8, panel 2. Okay, so we see Matt. He's got radars around his head. He's wearing his glasses, and... Okay. What's that? My radar here has picked up a radio message. It's being transmitted from this yacht. Organizer the Frogman, the time has come for our next move. Oh, I remember this story. This was the first appearance of Debbie Harris, the girl who I broke you with earlier this summer, Don.
But the thing is that, like, there are radio waves bouncing through the air all around us. Like, as we sit here talking, we are being bombarded with multiple radio waves that if we had a radio turned on right next to us would pick them up and translate them into audio. So he would be able to pick up like everything on the radio, thousands or maybe dozens, maybe thousands is too big, but definitely lots and lots and lots of transmissions. And think about all the things that come across the radio frequencies that aren't actually transmission, just the electromagnetic spectrum. He'd be hearing like massive static all the time. This doesn't make sense to me.
It's comics. I never really thought twice about it.
No. I'm going to say that this is a power that I'm very, very glad they dropped right away, as quickly as Xavier's crush on Jean.
That still creeps me out.
You know that came back in the 90s, right?
No. I haven't read those
You didn't
comics
know
yet.
that?
I haven't read those comics yet. They don't exist.
You hadn't heard of this?
No, I have. I just choosing not to believe it.
I love how, just to divert for a second, I love how, like, instead of, like, when he's like, I love her, but I can't tell her, and he's like, not because I'm her teacher, not because I'm older than her, not because I've known her since she was a little girl, but, like, the reason why he's like, because I'm in a wheelchair.
Right.
It's like, like, there are so many more inappropriate reasons why you should not be loving this.
She is a teenager. You are a 30-year-old man.
You've known her since she was a little girl. You're practically her father, almost. You've helped raise her. Like,
Charles, those feelings you're feeling down there, those aren't really love. That's something kind of different.
My God.
Keep casting those pods. Absolutely loving the show and genuinely can't wait for the next one. He wrote this in May, so yeah, he couldn't wait for the next one much longer. And genuinely can't wait for the next one. Thanks for giving me something to look forward to. Owen Schulz.
Amanda Shields writes, subject clothing optional. Just to inform you, Tyler. Uh-oh. I know where this is going. Just to, just to inform you, Tyler will no longer listen to ASM Classics without me there for the clothing optional reason. Though he didn't tell me that it was optional. Fortunately for me, I've caught up on the episodes while I was at work. I'm kidding. Maybe. Signed Amanda.
Okay,
So,
now I really go ahead. What you were saying, Don?
this is either Tyler's girlfriend or his mom.
This is Tyler's girlfriend,
It's his girlfriend. I've heard him mention her before.
and I want to know, Amanda, which one of those points are you kidding about? Like, are you listening to the clothing optional podcast while you're at work? And that's fortunate for you because it's a clothing optional podcast and you're at work? Or are you kidding about Tyler no longer listening to classics? Or are you kidding about the fact that you're always going to be there when he does listen to it because clothing is optional and he's just that hot? I'm really curious, Amanda. I want you to write back in and clarify. We have another email from John the Marvel Man, and it is entitled Response to Episode Number 31. That was the episode that talked about the two-part lizard story from Amazing Spider-Man 44 and 45. And he says, "Hello, purveyors of perfect podcasting. Thank you for yet another terrific podcast. Lots of info, lots of laughs, and Gwen's saga of did she or didn't she date Flash continues.
Awesome.
Your enjoyable conversation has inadvertently solicited the following comments." No solicitations here, John. Move along. Sorry. No, just kidding. Number 1, because I read every Mighty Marvel mag, I'm happy to help with your question about Spidey's recent appearance in the new X-Men title. As you suggested on the show, this was a guest appearance team-up arc. Spidey didn't join the X-Men. Briefly, Spidey appeared in the new X-Men title for a 4-issue arc, issues 7 through 10. Oh, that's okay.
That
We're
was, that was
talking
when
about.
we were like, did he join the X-Men? And like Josh was like sweating as he was trying to find the answer.
Yeah, I thought he was. I'm sorry, John. I thought you were talking about Silver Age X-Men. And I was like, why did we have this question? Because I know exactly when Spider-Man showed up in Silver Age X-Men. But no, during that episode, we were talking about the current X-Men series that started with number 1 with a vampire arc a year or two back. And Spider-Man was in several issues of that. So we were, kind of talking amongst ourselves, did Spider-Man join the X-Men? So now John is going to explain for us. He says he appeared in the new X-Men title for a 4-issue arc, issues 7 through 10. A small cadre of X-Men, Emma Frost, Storm, Gambit, and Wolverine, head off to New York City. New York City! To check out reports of a reptilian creature in the sewers. They find a lot of lizard-like humans when they arrive, and they find Spidey already down there. He tells them, but if you want at my little lizard pal, you're going to have to go through me. Why would he say that? Anyways, I'm sorry. Spidey explains that the lizard is now sending out brainwaves, creating human followers who behave like cold-blooded lizards, and they seem to be turning physically into lizards too. As usual, Wolvie wants to kill them all, and Spidey wants to save them all. They then learn that the lizard is not directly responsible for the transformations. Instead, the lizard is an unwilling participant, being the captive of Dark Beast, who is an X-Men baddie from the Age of Apocalypse arc years ago. Dark Beast has created a machine to capture the brainwaves of the lizard and transmit them to transform humans into lizard-like critters. Things go from bad to worse when Wolverine, Storm, and Gambit are transformed into lizard-like creatures by the brainwave machine. Of course they are. While Spidey holds off the Lizzie X-Men, I agree with Liz. Emma Frost heads off to confront Dark Beast and destroy his machine. She releases the lizard so that he can help her subdue Dark Beast and destroy the brainwave machine. They are successful and everyone reverts to their normal appearance. Because you can just do that in comics. The lizard departs to the deeper catacombs of the sewer. The X-Men and Spidey are too spent to follow. With these words directed to Spidey. Come to the deep places if you get tired of living like a monkey. Come find the lizard if you want to die. And John goes on to say, part of me thinks that this lizard-centric story belongs in Spidey's own book, but another part of me loves the continuity that persists within the Marvel Universe, which explains why I've been reading every title since 1967 or so. Wow, Marvel man. I didn't know you were that old school. Or did I know that? Did you say that? Have you told us that before? I don't know.
I'm sure you Facebooked him once or twice.
Yes. You should find me on Facebook. What do you guys think, he says? Should this arc have been presented in ASM instead of X-Men? The shocking shred ended with Part 4 in July. This arc followed closely behind, starting in March of 2011. Given that the Lizard A is a Spidey rogue and B was more brutal than ever, even killing his own son, shouldn't this next installment have been in Amazing Spider-Man? What do you think?
I think we needed a break from the Lizard after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Although I will say though, that if they did do that, it would have been interesting to have a continuous story, because at that point they were like, 4-part story, move on, 4-part story, move on, 5-part story. Like they were very episodic. So I wouldn't have minded it from a storytelling process, but at that point, Shed was such a controversial saga that they definitely needed a break.
Well, by the time you get to March of 2011, we're already well into big time, and Dan Slott's doing his own thing. So it may have been a story idea that was developed during the rotating writer's schedule that got tabled. Just put off until later and then got picked up in the... I don't know. That's just a random idea. Number 2, he says, Amazing Spider-Man number 45, page 12, panel 3. Perhaps the meaning of this phrase has changed since the mid-1960s, but should Mary Jane really tell Aunt Anna that Peter really turns me on? To paraphrase with today's lingo, she said to her elderly aunt, he's the least little bit nerdy, but he makes me soak my panties. Stan, this is just wrong. Marvel Man, you are my kind of humorist, sir.
In fairness, I don't think people say that these days to their elders.
I think that's his point. I think that if we use today's meanings with what she said, then she's telling her older aunt that she's getting horny by this guy, which is the weird thing to say to your aunt.
Well, I actually think we discussed in that episode, the phrases back then weren't as visually minded as they are now, possibly. I mean, I don't. It's funny because now "turn me on" is it suggests being amorous or being horny, but I really don't think that was the literal translation back then.
No, I don't think it was either.
Well, that year, it was a very, very, very big deal when the Beatles, at the end of one of their songs, they said, "I'd love to turn you on," and that was in 1967, and that was and it wasn't a sexual reference. It was more it was considered an intellectual thing, but also there was a big drug connotation, turning you on.
Okay, so they meant it as a drug thing.
Right, but there was a few other means. "Turn me on" could also meant. I'm trying to figure out a way to explain this, but
it was a more versatile phrase,
to interest somebody or something.
Right.
It's and somebody who was around.
These Batgirl comics really turned me on.
Well, it's funny, because there's interviews where John and Paul are talking about they were in the studio, and when they said that line, they knew what a big deal it was, that they were playing this on record, and they were looking at each other, because back then things were a little more squeaky clean.
Yeah,
I don't know how you account for the panel where Mary Jane says to Aunt Anna, "Yeah, I just love to take Peter upside down over the table."
I don't know exactly what that meaning was in the 60s.
and then Aunt Anna went into her bathroom and threw up. And then I thought,
when I ride Harry like a Harley, I mean, what does that mean? Okay.
Oh no.
Sorry. Number 3. Marvel Man, you're killing us. Amazing Spider-Man 45, page 6, panel 3. Given that Peter is such a worrywart, after Harry suggests that Peter go work for Norman, don't you think Peter's thought balloon should have read something like, "Go work for Norman Osborn"? I can't tell Harry this, but I could never risk letting him see me. The shock might cue his memory of his time as the Green Goblin and his knowledge of my secret identity. Come on, Stan. This is the same guy who is afraid that an injured arm will cause his friends to figure out his secret identity. Shouldn't he be afraid of bumping into Norman, let alone working for him? What do you guys think?
I agree with Tony.
Don't you know that amnesia is a permanent thing in the 60s? Well, later on, he keeps Norman at arm's length, and that was one of the reasons why I think it took him so long to take the job. But yeah, Peter's paranoia is very inconsistent. It might be because, the more social he's getting and the more popular he's getting and muscular, maybe some of his paranoia is being subdued because, hey, some things are actually going right for him. I mean, he's not living with Aunt May, and I would think that living with Aunt May, like someone that's telling you that if you eat popcorn, you're gonna like break your teeth and like go to the hospital or die. Like living with someone like that will make you paranoid. And he's at that point he's moved out for maybe a few weeks or a month or two, so maybe some of that Aunt May paranoia is dying down. Like, yeah, that's it. It's all Aunt May's fault. She's made Peter the most paranoid person in the world. Like, think about it. Like all that stuff that she like says. Like, if you don't have a
my
raincoat,
God.
like that's why Peter like was all. God, it makes so much sense.
Peter
It's
is
all Aunt
paranoid
May's-
because of his paranoid aunt.
Yes. Like subconsciously, you cannot live with someone like that subconsciously, like and have it not affect you.
That's hilarious.
That makes total sense.
This is a new part of Amazing Spider-Man Classics retconning of the continuity.
Yeah, that's
poor-
a new part, right?
But poor Aunt Anna, she has to get out now.
And his last point is number 4. Last, I was going to provide my captions for ASM number 45, page 19, panel 1, but I've already wasted enough of your time. Your biggest fan, the Marvel Man, a.k.a. John. Great letter.
You're not wasting our time.
Yeah, not a waste at all. That was awesome.
But don't email again because you might.
Dear Spidey Classics, hey guys, I just want to say the show is going as strong as ever. I mentioned in my message to the Mighty Shield, which wasn't read, by the way, looking at John. No hard feelings, though, he explains. That I'm 13 now. My birthday was April 22nd. I wanted first... Dude, you're like 13 and a half now.
That's like one day after my birthday.
I wanted first to say that my favorite guest host should come back to the show, J.R. Fettinger. Has he been back since then? Because I know that we recorded a few... Yeah. He had his second appearance since then, right?
Yeah, he's been on twice now. He was
Okay.
here for 2627, the Crime Master's Mask, and for 3940.
Okay, was that? Yeah, that was before this email. He's really funny and very enjoyable to listen to. He's never coming back. We had a falling out. It was really ugly. He
Never hear from him again.
packed his stuff and he left and never said a word. No, he'll be back one day. Probably for Spectacular Spider-Man number 2, the Green Goblin. Where was I? Because I turn the trail off when I read these things. He's really funny and enjoyable to listen to. I've been following along with you guys in the Marvel Masterworks, but now you have passed the end of my Masterworks collection, so I will be buying the Essentials soon. Dude, cheaper than the Masterworks, go for it. And they're in black and white, but who cares? I read these for the stories. Get some crayons, color them in. It's like a coloring book. You could pretend to be an inker, and
Or colorist.
yeah, you could pretend to be an inker or colorist, isn't it? I mean, I heard that that's how John Romita got his job, by coloring Essentials.
That's cool.
And
No,
why?
not really. Yeah,
I
and
know,
a lot.
I'm just kidding.
During the hiatus between episode 30 and 31, I was led to try Spider-Man Crawlspace and From Crisis to Crisis, both of which I'm really enjoying now, along with your shows, John. Speaking of John, it turns out I live just a short distance north of you.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. One last thing I want to mention to you is that you guys inspired me to start a Green Lantern podcast covering Jeff Johns' modern run. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll include information in my next email. Anyway, loving the show, and until Josh starts dating a girl named Betty, make mine Spidey Classics. Signed, Ethan Smith. Dude, that's so awesome. I was 13 in the last episode that we did in September.
Yeah, well, 2 episodes back now, but the reboot episode.
Yeah, we some reason we went back in time, and we still don't know how that happened, but we did.
It was crazy. I'm curious where you are now, Ethan, since you said you live just a short distance north of me. And B, yeah, if you're doing a podcast and you've got it going, send us the website and information about everything, and we'll be glad to mention it on the show. And send it if you, like I told the other email writer, if you have a promo that you've recorded, send us that in attachment, and we'll play it on the show. And our last email
From Elijah Villavan. Okay, if I get this wrong, please don't leave me. Elijah Villalpando. Hello, everyone at ASM. Just had one X-Men First Class question. Warning, has spoiler alerts. I recently saw First Class, and Charles Xavier lost his legs at the end of the movie. In X-Men Origins, Charles Xavier had his legs... I'll answer this. In X-Men Origins, Charles Xavier had his legs at the end of the movie where he helped guide those mutants. In First Class, he was younger, and X-Men Origins was older. X-Men Origins, legs. First Class, no legs. Question is, what are your suggestions on what happened? Can't wait to hear them. And go Team Donovan, Elijah, aka Team Donovan's #1 fan. That is so sweet.
We're on teams?
Well, in the Shipper Wars, probably.
There is totally a Team Donovan. I haven't wanted to tell you about it, Josh, because I don't want you to feel bad. But yeah, I get emails from people saying they're on Team Donovan.
So like usually when there's like Team Edward, there's a Team Jacob. So that means that one of us is like the object of affection in this triangle, and the other one's the competitor. So the question is, which one of us is the competitor?
I love you.
Josh and I are competed.
But no, I love you. But I love you. But no, I love you.
He's a stinking vampire. They're disgusting.
Okay, so X-Men Origins. I'm guessing he's talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I don't remember Xavier being in that. Was he?
Yeah, he was at the end. His face was like photoshopped at the very end when he was like leading Cyclops out. Now here's the thing, is I remember seeing First Class, and I had trepidations about it, but I enjoyed it. That movie is completely like contradicts all the X-Men movies, because not only is Xavier like crippled at the end, but like both in X3 and in Wolverine, he was walking, but they baldified him. So like, what I think is going on is that like with First Class, because the X movies come out every a couple of years now, so I would think that like they just took continuity out the window. I would just say that like it's more or less a relaunch of the series, and all those scenes where you saw walking Charles Xavier, just ignores it. Like he says in I think the first X-Men that Magneto helped him develop Cerebro. When you see in the First Class that it was Beast, so I would just say that it was retconned.
He also like met Magneto when he was like 17 or something in the first movie. That's what he said, and here he's like a college graduate. If you really want to examine the legs thing and make it fit in the continuity, there's been a few times in the comics where he's regained the use of his legs. So right, and they cripple again. So maybe like one of those events from the comics happened here off screen, and he got his legs back, and then he lost them again.
The longer the alien bird woman came between the movies and gave him his legs.
Or like Barbara Gordon, a miracle happened, and they're just
Parabiolene. Sorry, that's a Golden Age Superman reference.
Yeah, a miracle happened, and then Charles Xavier got a wacky roommate saying, "Fight the muties."
That's kind of terrible. Okay, so that is going to wrap up our email segment for today. Before we go into our comics, however, we are going to take a break. I'm going to play a promo for a show that has just recently started up by previous guest and friend of the show, Michael Bailey. Insert Bailey's Batman podcast.
Hey guys, this is Michael Bailey, and this is my Batman podcast. Ever get sick of Damian Wayne and Miss Jason Todd? This is the podcast for you. It's the 80s, and everyone in Batman has big hair. Welcome to Bailey's Batman. I don't know.
I'm meaning to read along with those issues. I mean, I read issues yet. The art is fantastic.
I read the issues for his first episode and listened to his first episode, and those are some really good books. Jason Todd looks nothing like Jason Todd, and Killer Croc looks like a dude rather than an animal.
Yeah, I do not like the lizard ripoff Killer Croc.
That's one thing that annoys me about modern Killer Croc. He became more and more and more like a crocodile, and he's actually
he has a skin condition, and like he filed his teeth. Like he doesn't have like he's not a mutant. That's what.
What I don't understand is there's in one of those issues there's a dinner party like where Dick Grayson's introducing everyone to the Todds.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, Babs is there with Jason Bard. Why wasn't Dick angsty? And why wasn't Babs angsty that, like, they weren't there together? And, like, why was he shaking Babs' hand while she was with her dates when, like, secretly he was dying to, like, be with her? Like, what? I don't understand.
Because Kevin hasn't read that issue.
No, but Nightwing Annual 2 said that, like, he always wanted to be with her, and, like, he was going to cancel his wedding for her and everything.
I have nothing.
As you should.
Bailey, if my little impression of you makes it into the bloopers, I love you, and I love your show.
Okay. Welcome back to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Today we are talking about Amazing Spider-Man 49, which was released March 14th, 1967, with a cover date of June. Our cover is a rather awesome one, actually, from John Romita, with Kraven holding Spider-Man in a wrestling grip from behind, while the new Vulture swings in to give him a sock on the jaw. though actually it looks more like he's giving Craven a sock on the elbow that's in front of his jaw, but I get what the artist is going for. And the whole thing is up on a tree limb somewhere, which is awesome. The banners proclaim, "You name it, this one's got it." Open up the book and the splash page has Spider-Man sprawled in the snow on the roof of a building, where we left him at the end of last issue and last episode. This is an unusual snowstorm, however, because the snow has actually fallen in the colors and shapes of the heads of Spider-Man's cast of characters. We see Harry Osborn, the now softer, prettier Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane Watson, Jonah Jameson, Aunt May, who is the only one in the group that is not smiling. We also have the new Vulture with his green helmet that comes down as a V on his nose, and Craven the Hunter, who would seem to be out of nowhere since he wasn't here in the first part of the story, the last issue. Except we saw him on the cover, so we got warning. And we get a blurb here that says, also reintroducing Craven the Hunter. But how is this a reintroduction? I mean...
Yeah, Craven's like trolled this title for the past few months, so like he's
he hasn't been gone. He's been here for if he had been gone for a long time, or if he were a new Craven the Hunter or something, then yeah, it would be a reintroduction. But no, he was just here, and they didn't think that his laser nipples warranted a reintroduction then. So oh well. The title across the top is big and dramatic, "From the Depths of Defeat." Sounds despairing and hopeful at the same time. Sure, Spidey has fallen far, but now hopefully the only place to go from those defeated depths is up to the heights of victory, or something. I think that's what Stan's going for. They say that a dying man sees his whole life flash before him when the end is near. So it is with the fallen Spider-Man who, daring to battle the deadly Vulture while stricken with a virus attack, has been downed and left for dead. Oh yeah, because Spidey has a cold, if you didn't remember. Because I forgot until I read that just now. And this is a Stan Lee and John Romita action epic lettered by Sam Rosen. Amazing Spider-Man is published monthly by Non-Pareil Publishing Corp. But that's just kind of a side note. Spider-Man, let's see. He finally stirs from the snow, thinking that the intense cold must have revived him, which is a notion that I often read in comics that makes no sense to me whatsoever, because if you're injured and your body is weak, it seems to me that lowering its temperature is just going to make it weaker.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Intense cold will not revive you. It will kill you. Spidey shakily climbs down the ladder and hobbles to his apartment. He climbs up the wall and through the window to avoid Harry seeing him. Harry is still out, I'm guessing with Mary Jane, since they had made plans to go out last issue. But he returns just at that moment. So Peter, still in his Spidey suit, except for the mask, dives under the covers and looks half asleep and all snuggled up when Harry turns on the light. He tells Harry he's feeling better, which is, of course, a big fat lie. Meanwhile, Craven sees news reports saying that the Vulture is the city's deadliest menace, which pisses Craven off because he's the one who first beat Spider-Man, so they should be talking about him. And in his rage, Craven attacks his pet tiger. They wrestle.
It's not his pet tiger.
He bullies him.
No, but it's not his because it's Raja from Aladdin.
He bullies him. Like, okay, look at that page. Look at the last panel. Look at the look on that tiger's face.
Yeah, Tiger's not happy to be attacked right here.
He's
like,
like, no.
What?
He like lets him out of his cage, beats him up, and then says, "Now back in your cage, I command you."
He
Like,
throws the tiger against the wall.
Animal abuse.
No,
just like the tiger's face, like John Romita Sr. did a good job of conveying this tiger's like, whoa.
Craven like choking. He's like choking the tiger by his throat. It's like, I didn't ask for this. I just want to choke.
I'll prove that I'm the toughest of all. I will attack an animal that I just let out of a cage with no like chance to defend itself.
But note for the listeners, no animals were harmed in the recapping of this comic book.
Except for the one that he's standing on, like before he lets Raja out, like Raja's probably wife or something.
Oh, like the rug, yeah. And then like, he's an elephant head. Like I don't know many like ivory poachers, but I don't know people like chopped off the heads of elephants. It's pretty intense.
He's a sick puppy.
And Russian. But that doesn't matter right now.
Or does it?
And Craven decides that he's going to hunt down the Vulture for robbing him of his glory. Ask any comic strip writer or podcasting comic book recapper, and he'll tell you the most valuable word in caption writing is meanwhile. We find May and Anna paying a visit to old Petey Britches in his bedroom. Peter still has his Spidey suit on, so he still has the blankets up around his neck. I guess this is just a few minutes after the last scene, and Peter hasn't actually slept yet, because he tells them he was about to take a nap, and all he needs is a good night's sleep, so I don't know, I guess the fight with the Vulture was during the day, and he passed out on the roof until late afternoon or early evening, which is when we are now. I don't know. I always try to make sense of the chronologies, and obviously I think about it more than Stan does. But the thing is, even though it hasn't been that long, Peter is actually feeling better, but with his aunt out there thinking he needs to rest, he can't exactly leave to go find the Vulture. May makes a call to the doctor, and even Anna makes a comment that she's never known a person who worried so. Get out, Anna. Get out while you still can.
And Anna, like, follows her in. Like, she's like, May Parker, you know, he's probably fine, I swear. Like, and you imagine that they've been having this conversation the whole car ride over. Like,
Please turn around. Please turn around. Please, let's not do this.
Mate, this isn't necessary. Like they probably just began like a typical day, like they're doing puzzles or whatever elderly ladies do. And then Aunt May looks up. I'm a little worried about Peter. He, you know, it's been 45 minutes since he's checked in with me. I'm going to go check on him. And then that's Anna sighs, this again.
I want a retelling of this issue where, like, Aunt May's like, Aunt Anna is like has Aunt May in, like, an arm bar, like, just like, no. And, like, Aunt May's like, I must see Peter. It's been 20 minutes since I've thought of him.
And she's so worried that she busts her way out.
And
Hulk May comes through.
That's why Anna Watson took so many trips to Florida, because during the time when these two were roommates, there was many periods where Aunt Anna will just disappear to Florida for like a long time. Like, because this woman drives her so crazy living together. Like, she has to like leave the state and go to like this and go to the vacation state just to like, you know, recharge.
Well, despite Aunt Anna's precarious living conditions, that evening the Vulture attacks an airborne cargo helicopter until they turn over their attaché case full of diamonds they're supposed to be delivering. Craven is kind of nearby. He's perched on a building corner watching it all happen. I've finally seen him in the flesh. Know that I have the scent. He cannot escape me. The problem is, seeing isn't smelling. He saw the Vulture way over there, and now he has the scent.
He smelled him with his eyes.
Maybe the Vulture like perched right there where Craven is perching, and said, I don't know. I give up.
He could probably smell him because of the wind. Like, is it that far fetched? They're in the same vicinity.
A little bit.
I guess that's possible. The wind could be blowing. Okay, we'll say that. You get the nose prize, Josh. The nose prize. You get the no prize, Josh. Blech! You get the nose.
I saw what you did there.
I can't.
The nose prize, like it.
At the Bugle, Jonah's clamoring for photos to put in the paper, so he has Betty try to track down Peter. She calls his apartment and Harry answers, but deflects the request because, of course, Peter is sick in bed. Then Gwen and MJ show up, and Harry acts like he didn't just see Mary Jane an hour ago. Hi, Aunt Anna. We were passing by and...
Why are you assuming that he saw her an hour ago?
Because they said at the end of last issue that they were going to go out for a shake. And then he came home, like, just a few pages ago.
Okay, that was a few weeks ago for me, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. Hi, Aunt Anna. We were passing by and thought Petey could use some cheering up. You know our motto, chase the blues away with Gwen and MJ.
I love that.
When Petey wakes up and sees what he missed, he'll kill himself. What I want to know is when Gwen and Mary Jane became so chubby, because they were never like this before.
And they never will be again. Until Gwen dies.
Why aren't they, like, you know, trashing each other's hair? In fact, I actually have a note about this concerning Spider-Man Blue, because that's still going on.
Spider-Man Blue, the story that will never end.
Until the end of this issue.
You said that 2 issues ago.
Yeah, this is, you see them, you wonder when they're going to get so chummy, and they will not be this chummy again until after Gwen dies, and there's a million stories about how they were best friends and did everything together. The only other time that you see them alone together, to my recollection, is during the Smasher storyline when like Peter and Harry like go to a political rally and the girls are already there waiting for them.
Because they care about politics so darn much.
Everyone does. Eventually, it becomes apparent that Peter is ensconced, and Mary Jane can't even fill the halls with some rollicking records because, he's supposedly sleeping. At that point, the girls decide to depart, and Harry walks them downstairs. Peter, meanwhile, is lying in bed wishing the doctor would hurry up and show so he could be declared healthy and go out swinging again. Because, he's a hard luck hero. He can't even go superheroing because he's supposed to be sick in bed. But he's not really sick in bed. He just has to fake it for his aunt because he lied to her. Outside, this reminds me of Superboy. Okay, because Superboy would get himself into all sorts of fixes just because, of some point of honor or something, and so he has to lie to a kid and then go behind the scenes to make him feel better about himself. I don't know. Anyways, outside, the Vulture is glorying in his newfound ability to fly until Craven lassos his ankle and yanks him to a roof that bears a striking resemblance to the roof that Spider-Man had crashed on. That's probably just John Romita drawing the same roof again. The Vulture lands a punch on Craven and tries to fly away again, but Craven grabs his ankle, and the added weight carries them both down through a skylight. Peter hears about their fight on the news radio, and he decides enough is enough. He peeks outside and sees that May and Anna have fallen asleep on the couch. Because they're old.
And so frail and weak and little soft little boy. I mean, two old
Turns
women.
out that when May eats popcorn, it cracks her teeth, and she's worried that the same thing's going to happen to Peter because she's the one who's so freaking old and frail.
They're both dead. They just died.
Anna finally killed her, and then she's like, and then after she died, Anna's like, at last, peace, rest, and then collapsed on the couch.
And the mastermind villain behind the Marvel Universe has finally perished.
And then and it's at the end of The Little Mermaid when Ursula dies, all those little seaweed creatures turn into muscular mermen and hot mermaids and swim away and the sun comes out again.
It's a all happy edition. So Peter decides to go on out and hopefully return before they awake. If I return at all. Which, what the hell does that mean, Peter? That you're going to duck out on your personal life or that you think you might die? I can't quite tell what he's trying to say there.
He thinks he might die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, Craven and the Vulture are the two most powerful supervillains he's ever faced, ever, never will.
Well, okay, nothing else in anything that he's thinking or saying goes along with the fact that he might die. Anyways, it just sounded like a random drop of morbidness mixed in for no reason. Everything else is yay, I'm feeling better, I can take on the world, the sky is blue, all the fields are green, but I'm going to die.
Is Stanley making it sound dramatic? The reader's whoa, Spider-Man might die. He has to face two villains this time. He could barely handle Craven on his own or the Vulture on his own, but together, if Spider-Man doesn't think he has a chance, he might not have a chance at all.
But I thought college-age kids read Spider-Man, though, and they're like, he's going to survive.
He's good. He's Spider-Man. So having heard on the radio that they were at the exhibition hall, Spidey swings there directly and finds the Vulture and Craven still fighting inside. Once they see him, each one starts talking about how defeating Spider-Man is more important than fighting the other bad guy. And while they're doing this, Spidey launches himself between them, with each fist catching a jaw on its way. They both try to fight Spider-Man, but not through a sense of teamwork. They're just, randomly, separately trying to fight him. In fact, when we get to the scene on the front cover with Craven holding Spider-Man and the Vulture punching him, Craven resents the Vulture's attempt to attack Spider-Man. Hold him, let me finish him off. Stay back, we belongs to Craven. Mm-hmm. And just when the Vulture voices the bright idea that they coordinate their efforts, Craven brandishes the laser nipples and shoots them at Spider-Man. Problem is, Spidey dodges, so the twin nipple blasts hit the Vulture instead, knocking him out of the sky. Wondering how many more times John's going to say nipples in this issue, Spider-Man leaps at Craven, wrenches the laser mechanisms out of his vest, returning his nipples to their non-functional state, and whumps Craven in the middle with all his might, no holding back.
I love the look on Craven's face when he's like, that really hurt, and he's passes out.
And Spidey even like brags about it. He's like, it's the same wump that staggered the Hulk in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 3, and Kraven goes down. And of course...
And then Spidey says Golden Age Superman style, "You're not fighting a tiger now."
Nice.
Raja washes with glee. Yes, at last.
Spidey clicks some pics and rushes home, and exactly 3 minutes and 22 seconds after he pops through his window, Dr. Bromwell shows up to examine a pajamaed Peter in his bed. The doctor gives Peter a clean bill of health, telling May it was probably just a 24-hour virus. "I'm so relieved, Doctor. He's such a fragile boy."
Yeah. She called him out of surgery.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was.
And he went and he had to make a house call in New York City. And then when he's like, he's healthy, he's fine. Like, how annoyed must Dr. Bromwell be right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's smiling for Aunt May, but it's probably like one of those pasted-on smiles. Fragile,
He's
my dear.
fine.
He's the picture of a robust health.
And she's, "Peter, dear, do you feel up to seeing Dr. Bramwell now?" Oh, so he has a choice? He has a choice, or like...
Aunt May then tells Peter that the doctor is a real pussy willow, and Peter corrects her that it's pussy cat. "But I think pussy willows are much cuter, dear." "Okay, pretty girl, if you say so, he's a pussy willow. Tell you what, how about me taking my favorite gals to a movie? There's a way out western at the Bijou. And that would be nice, Peter. You've been cooped up so long you can use a little excitement."
Irony in 3, 2, 1.
But he was outside all day, doing all sorts of exciting things.
And Bertoni explodes.
Aunt May, you don't know of what you speak of.
And next issue box says, next issue, Spider-Man no more.
Wait, there's not going to be a next issue?
Nope.
There's no more Spider-Man.
No more, never, ever, ever. That's the last one. You just thought this show was going to go for a long time. Nope, next one's the last one.
I told everyone that the book sales were going to drop as soon as Steve Ditko left, but nobody believed me.
I did 1960.
Maybe we can get Steve back for issue 50.
That'll happen. Let's get Steve. Let's get Steve on online and have him agree to guest host on this.
Steven, if you're listening to this episode right now, you should be here for issue 50. Okay?
Well done. Okay, tell you, John, if you can get Steve on for episode 50,
I will bake you a cake.
I will bake you a cake. I will kiss your feet.
Will you really? You should totally drive over here.
That's like, Steve didn't even draw that issue.
No, he just criticized it about how it doesn't match with his worldview of objectivism and black is black and white is white, and there's nothing in between except for in these essentials when it is black and white and white.
So, what did we think of issue 49?
Very fun issue.
It was a fun romp in the snow with the Vulture and Kraven. I'm glad that Spider-Man ripped his nipples out. Maybe
as he deserved.
If you can't use your nipples properly, then Spider-Man will rip them out. That's a lesson that all young men must learn.
It certainly doesn't go to formula. I mean, it's not like he finds a bad guy and fights him and goes and does other things and comes back and fights the bad guy again or something. Peter's stuck in bed trying to dodge his Aunt May for most of the issue, and then finally comes out for the last few pages.
Yeah, I think we said last time that this is one of those issues where people say Spider-Man's not your typical hero. He gets sick and has to go home. Like this is one of the few times where that actually happens. And I don't think this happens again until the Conway stuff with the ulcer. Not in the strict format.
No, because there's what's the issue where no, that's in the late 100s. Never mind. I was thinking the issue where Spider-Man's really, really tall over Peter and the gang, and Peter's holding his mask in his hand.
Oh, that's that issue, right?
Is that same one?
The Jerry Conway. It's like the Spider Slayer thing, and that dovetails into the Dr. Octopus story, and then that dovetails into the Hammerhead arc. Okay,
yeah, that must be all the same one then. Where Spider-Man.
Unless you count the next time he gets sick, when not only does he have a fever, but he loses his girlfriend.
So
the first page creeps me out because if you notice, Aunt May's the only one staring at the reader and not smiling. So it's like, I see you, and you're not eating your wheat cakes.
Jonah, well, I don't know. They all kind of look like they're staring at me, except for the bad guys. They're looking at Spider-Man. All the good guys feel like they're looking right at me.
I
Hey,
always
man.
find it funny how in like so many like headshots of like Jonah Jameson, and this goes for Robert Robertson too. They always have their cigars and their pipes in their mouths. Like they had that in like the John Byrne Spider-Man #1 cover. It's like it's not them without their nicotine.
Right, right. And I've never smoked a cigar, but does it really spend a lot of time in your mouth? Wouldn't that make it kind of nasty and stuff on the end?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if you're just like this big old hunk of leaves, like, that you're drooling all over and stuff. I don't know. It just seems like it'd be kind of nasty. But like I said, I've never been a cigar smoker, so I don't know how that works.
Well, to answer that question, we have J. Jonah Jameson on the line.
Listen here, Parker.
We agreed that like the plot contrivance of actually instead of the cold killing him, it wakes him up to save his life is a weird one.
Yeah, and it's used a lot in comics. I've seen it many times. People like falling into water and that shakes them awake, and the cold water wakes them up. It's like, no, it wouldn't.
It's just it almost is as though this was a discrepancy of the writing and the art, because if he had like I don't know had faked being knocked out and then like because he was too weak to fight and then went home, that would make a lot more sense. But it does actually look like he passed out and then like, oh, I'm up now, but I'm still weak. Kind of taking advantage. It's kind of taking advantage of like the whole sick idea.
Yeah, a bit. Animal abuse from Kraven. He's just like, I'm pissed. I'm going to let my tiger out and fight him. None but Kraven can fight the mightiest carnivore barehanded. Come, my pet, it's time for your master to test his mettle once again. And the tiger's like, oh, crap, I hate this part.
Like, look at that panel where like Kraven's at the top of the stairs. It's very menacing.
Yeah. That's very much like boy cowering in the basement, dad with the blackjack coming down the stairs.
Papa's home.
Man, this scene with the tiger gets worse as
we examine it more.
Yeah, like he's locked in the basement and like is only let out to get beat up. This is
poor tiger.
If anybody, if any supervillain was an animal rights or an animal abuser, it would be Kraven.
And again, like the tiger's face, like every single time you see the tiger's face, except for like the panel where he's like coming out of the stage, like the panel where Kraven's jumping at, and the panel where he's getting choked, panel where like he's walking away with his tail between his legs, like it's poor tiger, like he's gonna become a supervillain or something.
He totally should become a supervillain. This is the sort of scene that would never fly in comics today.
Oh, are you kidding me? The Joker just cut off his face.
The Joker cutting off his own face is not the Joker cutting off an animal's face when the animal is being caged downstairs.
You had to remind me of that.
Okay. A teenage girl was crucified on a wall and tortured with power drills and slowly gutted, and then taken to the hospital where the doctor withheld treatment on her leg.
What are you talking about?
Die. How about that?
What are you talking about?
Stephanie Brown's death.
Well, that I haven't read that.
Well,
and you never should, because it's horrible writing.
I mean, what I'm saying is this would never fly in modern comics. Right? No, in the modern comics, this could happen and the tiger would be getting raped.
No. I seriously think that you can do a lot of stuff to human characters in comics that you can't get away with. I mean, in fictional depictions, not just comics, I think in any medium, you could do a lot of stuff to human characters that if you were to portray doing it to animals, you would get in big,
Well, yeah. I think in later years, Kraven just up and kills animals for the challenge of the hunt. He doesn't just beat them up.
In Kraven's Last Hunt, he attacks a bunch of mannequins, and because it's comics and it's not a motion comic where you see these move. The first few times I read that scene, I totally didn't get that they were mannequins.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so in Spider-Man Blue, with this issue, they don't show you how Peter gets back to Harry's apartment, and he just opens it with Harry saying, "Darn, Peter, you look like hell," or whatever. And what I really like about that interpretation is that the whole Mary Jane and Gwen scene, Anna and Aunt May are nowhere near it as they deserve. And Peter, it wakes up to Mary Jane serving him soup, and then Gwen comes in with a storybook that Uncle Ben coincidentally used to read to him, hinting that she's perfect. And it's a very, very, very like Gwen versus MJ sort of mindset, but it's actually written pretty well. I like it.
It's interesting that they changed the scene so much, though, because obviously, I mean, that was all very, very deliberate.
Yeah, they almost do like the frozen word balloons with like Gwen, Mary Jane, and like Peter sees actually now that I think about it, they kind of fuse like what was it, issue 64 or whatever, where like old Vulture and new Vulture spoilers like fight against each other in that issue.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, he sees Toombs and Drago fighting out the window, and like he's like, oh, I'm sorry, girls, I need my rest. And they say, you suck, Peter, and like they leave. And
Oh, wow.
He's like,
So they changed. They modify this scene and then change the whole bad guy situation outside, too. That's really, really weird.
Well, they changed the order of a lot of things. Like I said, the whole thing like closes with Flash Thompson's like instead of Flash Thompson's goodbye party, it was like a Valentine's Day party or something, and
it was Flash's goodbye. It was his Valentine's party where he announced that he was leaving for the army.
Right, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, and we mentioned it before. Like Craven wasn't after Harry because he was trying to get to Norman. He was after Harry because he thought Harry was Spider-Man because like Peter and Harry traded cologne, and he tracked the scent.
Wow. I remember that now. Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about that. I have to admit that I still haven't read it yet, so I really, really should.
I think this adaptation was like my favorite from that miniseries because like I really liked how they in that particular issue it was like the most Gwen Team MJ Team Gwen you ever read, but it wasn't written like as bad as you might think it was. It was written kind of entertainingly.
I know we've seen the Vulture, this new Vulture. We saw him last episode, last issue. I don't really feel like we get anything new from him here. I don't feel like either of the bad guys really does anything to really make them stand out more than before.
I think Craven's like a one-time joke that he keeps repeating himself every time he appears. He's like, "I'm the king of the seas." No. I'm the king of the jungle.
I'm the king of the world.
I can do anything by smashing this vase and beating up helpless kittens. And then Vulture's like, I'm the king of the sea. Damn it. I'm the
What is it with all these nautical villains?
They're all really tiger shark in disguise.
Why am I thinking of the water? Oh,
For real.
He says, he's like, I can fly, I can do anything, I can take over the world, even Spider-Man, because he's too coward to show his face in front of me.
He is too much of a coward.
That was funny.
Okay, and Donovan's flubs will be left in the episode.
So Peter moved out of Aunt May's house, but really the status quo is still the same here. This could have very well been a Peter gets sick at Aunt. Like, this story would have had very little differences if he was still living at Aunt May's house, because she visits him and like treats him the same as she did when they were living together.
He's moved out, but he can't get away.
Right. Well, I mean,
that's like a issue, I think.
Well, like it's a storytelling thing though too. Like storytelling wise, the fact that he's moved out does not change anything.
Right.
Like you could have told the same story with him living at Aunt May's house, except like Harry would have been visiting, like the girls would have still been visiting. Like it's no difference. Like okay, Peter's at Harry's house. It's a new status quo. We're not going to do any of that Aunt May stuff anymore. This is usually in the book where Aunt May would be worried about him. Let's have her go visit him. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, now
can't wait till
that Flash
Austin.
Thompson has gone off to war, let's have him come back every 5 issues.
Yeah, for real. God, that hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna.
Give it like 3 issues and like, hey guys, Vietnam, so they can fight their own war while I take a break.
I said this joke on another podcast, but he never went to Vietnam. Like he chickened out. He didn't go on the plane. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Like another episode of the podcast. Like and like every once in a while, like shut up in a uniform. Like, hey guys, I'm back on break. Whoa. Anyway, back to Vietnam. See ya.
He's out at his sister's house.
Right. That's where he learned to be an alcoholic.
What did you guys think of the fight at the end with Drago and Craven and Spider-Man?
It was pretty okay. The art is really nice. The panels are really big. He really opens up, and of course we talked about this last time. John Romita, when he gets to action scenes, he just opens up his pen, lets the panels get bigger, and gets more cinematic with things. I thought it worked really well. It's just very short, and I don't know. To be honest, I'm not that satisfied by this issue.
Really?
Yeah. It was not as much of an enjoyable read for me as some of the other ones we've done recently.
See, I really like the whole hijinks of like the him being sick, because like whether it's like a Spider-Man cliche or not, it isn't. That's a fun situation to imagine. You know, like, oh, I'm a superhero, but I can't let anyone know because I'm sick, so I can't fight, but I can't stay home. Like, I genuinely think that's a fun, engaging thing to read. I do think that like this is a very conclusion type of story, like issue. Like, it's just, you know, the confrontation. But I would say in terms of the fight sequence, I think Spider-Man actually gets really, really physical, and I like that because he's taking it to Kingpin, to Craven. Like, he elbows him in the gut. He does a lot of punching here, and I think that it's really like, it's nice to see Spider-Man deliver a lot of like two-fisted justice kind of thing. It's because of the art.
I like superheroes who punch bad guys. And you can hear more about that at goldenagesuperman.libsyn.com.
Or Closer Chronicles at spideydude.com. Or thebatmanuniverse.net.
Okay, so Craven finally goes over. I mean, it takes a lot to put Craven out in this issue. Spider-Man really wails on him for a while, and I didn't usually think of Craven as being that strong.
Well, I don't think Craven has superhuman strength. He's one of those guys who has like enhanced strength. I mean, I never saw him as like lifting a car or anything, but like he fights elephants on an hourly basis and beats up abused tigers. But see,
well, I don't know. I think that is superhuman. It's just not Superman levels of superhuman. Superhuman is something more than normal. So,
I think Craven's super strength was like retconned in later. Although he did make references to jungle potions in the Ditko books.
Yeah, right. I think that like they made references to. See, here's the thing. Like, because we're getting so much of them in these early issues. I really think that this is what kind of made Craven to the joke that he was for a while. Because I don't see the attraction to the guy. I mean, he's an interesting idea, but like I don't think he's an interesting idea because he's like one of Spider-Man's most recurring villains in this era. But like, he doesn't pose any serious threat besides strength. I mean, well, at least with a Vulture, I don't think the Vulture's just a dumber idea in concept, but at least the Vulture has the aerial advantage of, like, you know, fighting in the air with Spider-Man swinging in the air. So that's an idea for storytelling. But Craven could fight any character, and like he would be the same kind of gag. So not only does he really fit Spider-Man, and this is all my opinion. I mean, I'm sorry for all the Craven fans who I'm making cry right now, but I think that like in concept he just comes off as super villain. He doesn't come off as like a character, whereas at least with the other characters there's a certain theme that goes beyond the animals, that kind of goes into like visualizations that I think John Romita can deliver. Like, I think the last issue with Vulture was actually really good because it was all in the air, but in this one it's like I like the fighting, but that's mainly due to the art. In conception it is kind of like basic and rudimentary.
Well, it's possible that some of what you're saying was felt by the writers as well, because Craven is gone for quite a while after this. He makes an appearance in the Kazar series of Astonishing Tales in 1970, but he doesn't come back to Spider-Man until ASM 103. So that's quite a ways away. 54 issues, that's 4.5 years.
And he sucked even worse in those issues because like he wanted Gwen as his Jungle Bride, and he like was like manipulating the Gibbon. I liked him even less.
Spider-Man commits murder in that book.
So
really?
Yeah, he drowns Gog in quicksand.
Oh yeah.
To be honest, like I mean, those issues are so poor to me. I really couldn't be bothered by like reading them more than twice.
To be honest, I'm looking over his appearance list, and he is not a frequently used villain over the next like decade.
Those were bad issues. Like
in Roy Thomas's era, which was very short, those seem to be really like we probably shouldn't be talking about this later, but like, those seem to be like really like kind of goofy stories. Whereas like he was only on the books for like what 10 issues, and then like Stanley came back, and then
it was still with some villains after issue 100. Like, hey Gwen, this place with man-eating dinosaurs and danger at every turn, you know, your dad just died and you just got back from London. Want to go to this place that'll probably give you a traumatic experience for life and probably kill you?
But it's opportunities for Gwen in a bikini.
It's true. And then Peter plays like Doc Savage there, because he's like, let go of her, you beast, and he like grabs a gun and like goes after Craven. And he's like, oh wait, I'm Spider-Man, so he says, screw this. Yeah, it's odd.
And then Craven randomly basically wants to marry Gwen.
I hate that kind of crap. Like the villain wants
Which
the love
they-
interest for no reason.
Yeah, I mean,
I can think
apparently,
of one really big reason, but not to marry her.
well, no. He wanted her to be. He said bride.
I know.
mean,
I'm just saying that, like, I would, if I were Craven, I'd be thinking other things besides bride.
Because you're John Wilson.
After Mary Jane said at like the end of one of the Since Past crossovers, I know who the father of Gwen's children are. Like there was a lot of theories online, and one of the ones that actually made a lot of sense, and I knew like would not be used because it was JMS, and JMS doesn't use continuity like this. But it was like it was maybe while they were in the Savage Land, maybe Craven, had his way with Gwen, and she never told Peter because she was ashamed of it, and that's why the kids, like, have superpowers because they're Craven's kids, with the jungle potions, and that's why they aged fast, like, and it was like using continuity, like, oh, this makes sense, but then it was Norman Osborn.
It's one of the reasons I don't like. I mean, not I don't like, but it's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy Batman '89 as much as other people do, because like the whole Joker Vicky Vale thing seems really forced. But like that's neither here nor there. I think that like if you could compare Craven against the other villains, like the Rhino, who doesn't appear until the '80s, right? Like I think that it's. I think they use up his worthwhileness. I mean other villains like Electro don't appear for a while, so it's interesting to see like who sticks and who doesn't. I mean I think for the next several issues we get a bunch of new villains and not any Ditko stuff.
Right. I
Yeah,
think so too.
we get a new villain in issue 51.
No, issue 50.
Yes.
He's there in 50.
Yeah, he first appears in 50.
Yeah.
Crime is his livelihood.
Right.
It's pretty much that scene. It's with it's not with Norman Osborn.
When we get up to that episode, we have to do the '90s animated series scene word for word from the episode because it's that epic.
Well, the Vulture is coming back in issue 63. Both Vultures come back later, spoilers. So we'll be seeing them again much more quickly and soon in the stories than we will see Craven. But then they also, after issue 63 and 64, the Vulture goes away for quite a long time. Now, one other thing while we're talking about Craven, because we are still talking about him because I have decreed it to be so, whenever Calypso comes along, was it ever retconned that she was like part of his life earlier? Or is she just part of his life in the issues we see later, starting with 209 and going forward?
I believe they have a history.
Because I was just wondering when we were talking about him wanting to be Gwen's bride, or not be Gwen's bride, but have Gwen for his bride, wouldn't, was it possible that Calypso's retconned storyline would put him in his life instead?
Well, he has a wife too, and he's been married to her since before he tried to take Gwen as a bride because he has kids that are,
Wait,
old.
He has a. I didn't know he has a wife.
Yeah, from Graham Hunt.
Oh, duh. Yeah, that's right.
Spider-Man ripped her face off.
But that was like a BS retcon. Like oh, by the way, I have this wife.
Raven's always been a womanizer though, because the Grim Hunter's mother is a different person than
Calypso.
Yeah, like they all had different parents, and like it was really weird because Alyosha Craven, he slept with Calypso, which is like,
you know what? Wasn't it like assumed that like she was like their mother, and like I think J and D Mateus actually insinuated like there was some sort of like incestual theme going on there.
I don't remember that because like she seemed like ignorant of the fact that Craven had kids.
I don't know. I read those. I had those issues of Spectacular, and like I thought it was actually really, really like it was good, but it was like really like disturbing. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, to me, I think I don't. This is one of those things where like I don't see why Craven needs to be back, because even if he does play the obsessed hunter who wants to kill himself for glory or whatever crap like that, then like I think that's a very, very like shallow well. Otherwise, you're just doing this kind of like goofy King of the Jungle thing, and that can only go so far because it's a very Tarzan-esque kind of idea. So, I'm glad that we get the. I'm glad that the way he went out was just getting punched out by Spider-Man, instead of like having a big over the top kind of thing.
You know what is going to happen with Craven though between now and the next time we see him, is that he's going to make a deal with Mr. Sinister, and he and the Blob are going to track down the X-Men and Peter and them at the coffee shop. They're going to fight them all together.
Get their blood samples. I read that this past summer.
X-Men Spider-Man crossover of 2009. The first issue they're kind of nebulous about when it takes place, but it definitely is sometime between now and 104 because the X-Men between now and then the X-Men are going to split up, and in that issue they're still together. So,
Oh, you know what also happens in between this is like he invades the coffee bean when Harry, Gwen, Mary Jane, and Peter are there.
Stacy.
Captain Stacy, yeah.
what is that from?
The
Amazing
96
Spider-Man Annual 1996.
Ah,
which is awesome. And like Captain Stacy learns Spider-Man Peter Parker, and it's all remembered by Ben Riley.
Because you're a
Actually-
handy man to have around.
yeah, I'm actually looking up right now. Yeah, it has Spider-Man Human Torch number 2, X-Men Spider-Man number 1, and Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1996, and some X-Men Hidden Years issues are all involving the Kraven between now and his next appearance in Astonishing Tales.
I think he also, I mean, this might not be in between, but I think he also like runs into Tigra, doesn't he, or Hellcat, whichever character she is in it now.
He was in Marvel Team Up at one point or another.
That might be later on. When he comes back in Amazing Spider-Man 103, Marvel Team Up hasn't started yet.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, Marvel Team Up. Okay, yeah, we have Creatures on the Loose, Daredevil, Marvel Team Up 67. There's a Spectacular Spider-Man issue. Lots of other stuff that happened after that, but it's still kind of spaced out some. In fact, only about 15 appearances from now is Secret Wars 2.
Yeah, him in Secret Wars 2. I think all he did was like, there's an issue where like every single villain in the world like is in Mephisto's realm attacking the Beyonder, and like you see Kraven, but he doesn't have a big role. Like he doesn't like rally the villains, like making a speech about honor and killing the Beyonder.
It's weird because for someone who has such a huge legacy, having had all the other Kravens and being, the Kraven's Last Hunt being that huge storyline, I'm just looking at his appearance list. He's not that widely used a villain.
It's because the stories that he was used in are very, very popular stories.
And just really quick count:
I'll believe that for a
103,
second.
103, 104, 110, 111. We'll count each of those as one story, so that's 2 stories. A Spectacular Spider-Man issue, that's 3. Team Up is number 4. And 1, 2, 3 other appearances in Spider-Man after that before he dies in Last Hunt. So we have a half dozen Kraven stories between now and Kraven's Last Hunt. That's it. That's all.
Wow, so like 6?
Yeah.
Huh.
He shows up in some other books, but not very often. I mean, seriously, he is a very unused character between now and when he does the big death.
No wonder he wanted to kill himself. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Gotta go. Come on to the bridge. I had to do it.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to talk about with this story?
That may be it.
Okay. The house hat for this issue has Marvel Collector's Item Classics 9, which reprints stories from the Fantastic Four, Iron Man from Tales of Suspense, Doctor Strange from Strange Tales, and the Watcher from Tales of Suspense, and the Incredible Hulk. Also up this month is Fantasy Masterpieces from the Golden Age of Marvel, reprinting the famous Human Torch Submariner battle from Marvel Mystery Comics 9, the first story to use a shared universe between any of Marvel's characters, although not the first to do it for any company, because I found out recently that the company that would become Archie Comics, they had those superheroes that were used in DC's Impact line and Red Circle line in the last few years in the early 90s. The Shield and the Wizard shared some stories before this issue was done. But anyway,
Yeah, but they don't count. We don't care about them.
we don't care about them. Just saying it exists. There's also in that issue a Captain America story from Captain America Comics 7 that you can hear all about on an upcoming episode of The Mighty Shield, and 3 more supposedly Golden Age stories that are actually from the early 1960s. One of them is actually the backup story to an issue of Journey into Mystery that had Thor as the main feature. So that's really not Golden Age at all. The Marvel Bullpen Bulletins has dazzling data, dizzy dispatches, and dangerous declarations of rather dubious distinction.
Okay, Stan, you need to stop.
And
Every
they-
issue with this.
Therein resides the first tidbits about the new round of king-sized specials coming in the summer, which of course includes Spider-Man, but also Millie the Model, the first such special issues for Sergeant Fury, Daredevil, and the Avengers, as well as the Fantastic Four. The monthly checklist is also back because the people at the printing office, the mailroom, and other places in the building all cried foul before the chance for reader response ever came through when they took it out last issue. But the big point of this bulletin page is that it features the debut of Stan's Soapbox, which is a mini column he writes personally to the readers. Sometimes he talks philosophy, but a lot of times he just likes to hype new product. And this month's batch of Marvel books features the first installment of that column. In the Spider's Web, Chris Barth complains about Peter's new pad and wants him back on May's apron strings. No, he really does. That's really what he says. Lee Ruff pins them down on the logic problem of a sliding timeline, to which Stan basically says, deal with it, kid. And Gary Whitlock says that if they're going to bring Spidey to TV like they say they are, then it better be better than the superhero kids show they're doing now.
It's hard to disagree.
Yes.
It was. Lasted more seasons. It's a hit! And it's been canceled, but it's a hit.
With classes like Dr. Nobody and that giant robot that scared me as a child.
But one letter I have to read in its entirety. It's kind of short here, but I got to read this. Dear Stan and John, since Playboy recently presented an excellent satire of Captain America and mentioned the Human Torch and the Submariner in the process, I think it is only fair that you show your appreciation by publishing a centerfold illustration of gorgeous Gwen or Mary Jane Watson.
What?
He says, okay, I know you would...
Stan wrote that.
I know you would drive the human race wild if you did, but I can dream, can't I?
Okay, now actually, now that I think about it, in John Romita Sr.'s big book of interviews that I have, he does have a couple of like art illustrations where he has like several Gwen and MJ centerfold. Like they're not naked, but like they're like in bikinis and stuff, and like they've not been printed for comics, so they could have responded.
Hey, pass that shit over. Sorry. That letter, just to prove it, is from PFC Bruce Long, and he gives his serial number, which I wouldn't have done.
Bruce Long, is that like a real name?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I don't know. He has a serial number here. It can be looked up. And Stan's response is, gee, Bruce, we're sorry to report that we don't have a single fold-out pic of Gwen or MJ anywhere in the bullpen. But tell you what, do you think our frantic ones would enjoy a photo of Jolly Jonah as a baby? We bet he'd cause a real sensation on a bear rug, sucking his thumb with a little ribbon in his hair. Especially if we added that nutty mustache of his just for kicks.
Mama. Parker, give me my bottle. Miss Brandt. Betty would be his secretary. It sounds like a Silver Age Superman story. Like on the cover, it's like Betty, like Ned, and like Peter, like, oh my gosh, Mr. Jameson's been changed into the baby. But the board of directors is on their way. What are we gonna do?
You know what? Betty Brant would be like the nanny character from like Muppet Babies. Like we would never see her. We'd be like, ooh, time for your nap, little Jameson. Ooh.
Oh, Miss Brant, give me my blanket.
So next-ish, to put it bluntly, the next Spidey Spectacular you are about to gape at is possibly one of the most unusual, most dramatic, most unexpected yarns of the year. You'll be seeing a somewhat far-out new twist, but that's only part of the excitement. The thing that'll really grab you is the momentous decision which Peter Parker has to make. It's the type of thriller that only Marvel could do, should do, or would do. If we tell you any more now, it'll spoil some of the scintillating surprises in store for you. So let's just let it go with a reminder to latch on to Spider-Man number 50. With half 100 great issues under our belts, we've got one of the most magnificent of all coming up. So until Aunt May gives up her job as a go-go dancer at the Silver Spoon, hang loose, hero, the fun's just beginning.
You're really going to get Steve for that episode?
Yep.
You're going to get Steve for that episode.
I've already talked to him. I do believe that Steve is going to be here for next episode.
You heard it here, folks. So if there's any episode to listen to of Amazing Spider-Man Classics, the one with Steve, the Steve, is the one to listen to. So be here or
be there or be square. In your case, it'll must be easier to be there. Ha 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 ha.
Oh my dear, ready for the end?
My pretty.
I have no idea why. I just want to do voices for the rest of the show. Like
Wilson Fisk, what is the meaning of this? One might say that I've gone into the business of family reunions. How long you get to enjoy each other's company is entirely up to you. Felicia Hardy, I'd like to introduce you to your father.
Nice. Okay, so between now and next time, if you want to write to the show, you can do so at amazingspidermanclassics@gmail.com. We will read your thoughts on the air and respond to them. You can also talk to us at facebook.com/amazingspidermanclassics after you like the page. There's also a link to that page at the show's website, amazingspiderman.libsyn.com, where you can download and comment on episodes old and new. Episodes are also posted at spidermancrawlspace.com, which allows for comments as well. The most popular way to procure new episodes, however, is to go through iTunes. There you can subscribe to the show and pull down any episode you like. We would love it if you iTunes users would also take the time to leave a review to tell other iTunes users all about your favorite podcast for classic Spidey goodness. So until next time, I am John Wilson.
And don't forget Robin.
And I am Joshua Lappin-Bertoni.
And thank you for listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Good night. I hope you enjoyed this lost episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Josh and Don and I had a great time taking a look at Amazing Spider-Man issue 49. I hope you enjoyed the journey. The next two episodes will be joined by special guest Stephen Lacey to take a look at issues 50 through 52. Then I will do a special episode by myself where I go through the email bag, reading all of your missives that you wrote over the years, asking questions about Spider-Man, that sort of thing. And then brand new episodes of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. But as I said at the beginning of the show, there will be a bit of a change because I'll be having a new panel working with me, or rather a new special co-host, because my new partner in my journey through classic Spider-Man stories will be none other than podcasting extraordinaire and my very good friend, Michael Bailey. He and I are working busily on getting episodes ready for you, and those will be coming out after we go through all of these. So until then, do please continue to enjoy these lost episodes, and my name is John Wilson, and I always appreciate you listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Good night.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big hang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.